I am Reed. I am 27, just an average dude. I've made tons of money mistakes in my 20s, and now I want to share everything I've learned to help you take control of your finances and your life. So I have failed with probably near a dozen businesses at this point in my life. I am 26 years old, but it honestly just took one to make me nearly 2 million and set me up for life from a cash flow perspective. Now, obviously in this video, I am not even going to include absolutely everything I tried as a kid, basically like Forex, insurance, e-commerce apps, and all that stuff. I mean, trust me, I have tried so many things lightly, but these are just the ones that I really gave a serious shot at and the lessons I learned from each. And I may even talk about how I don't even view them as failures anymore. I really don't as I get older. If anything, I appreciate them that much more. So let us just dive right in. Business number one was an online fitness training company that I tried starting when I was in high school. So I have been big into working out since about 13. I have been consistent since that point, and by grade 10, I was just training a few kids from high school for like lunch money, right? Nothing crazy, but I was super inspired by two guys specifically on YouTube. One was Christian Guzman, and the other was Matt Ogus. And I might be aging myself a little bit here. Those guys, if you know, trust me, search up those names. These were like the OGs of fitness YouTube, and they had their training companies, and they were vlogging and all this kind of stuff. And I think still a huge mistake of mine was not vlogging my journey, but more importantly, not taking coaching seriously enough. But they gave me enough motivation to be like, what the hell with it, I am going to try. One day, I am 15 years old, I wanted to order a shirt from a guy called Nick Wright. He had this huge Facebook page called Nick Wright Bodybuilding, and it was a big fitness YouTuber at the time. And I emailed him first, or DM'd him on Facebook, I can't remember, but I said, hey man, been a follower for years, seriously, love your stuff. If I buy a shirt and take a picture for you to post on socials, because he had a huge page at the time, will you post it? And also show up my fitness business. He was like, what the hell with it? Sure. I wake up in the morning, obviously the shirt comes in, I take the picture, I send it to him, I wake up that next morning and it is posted, it is getting a ton of likes, a ton of comments, and I had 6 emails in my inbox asking about my prices, right? So this is before everything, this is before I had a website, even a domain, like I even look like a kid, so I woke up to 6 emails about prices. A few never responded back. One said it was out of his budget, but two people were like, okay, awesome, send me the PayPal and I'll get that paid. And I had gotten my first taste. It was like $150 per person too. It was nothing crazy, maybe $125, something light. But I remember being in class and seeing that transaction come through, and I am like, oh my God, this is actually a real possible thing. This is insane. It was so cool to me that you could do this. That was my first ever real transaction, and I still remember that to this day. The funny thing is, I felt I was slightly onto something, and this is before the online fitness space just blew up to what it is today, right? But the issue was those following months, I focused on all the wrong stupid stuff. I mean, business cards, t-shirts, a cool website, a logo that I spent like $400 on, which was so dumb, and it was just ridiculous looking back at it. My number one focus should have been customer acquisition, doing as much social outreach as I possibly could to try and get clients. But I was just lazy, if I am being honest, and I didn't know what I didn't know. And that was the huge issue. So that is an easy mistake for people. Nobody cares about the logo in the beginning. What can you do for me? What is your business? What is your service that can provide value to me today, right now? So anyways, business number 2, this is a funny one. Real estate wholesaling. I remember getting back from watching Terminator Genesis in theater summer 2015 with my dad, and I was in this phase of staying up super late. School just went out, so we had all summer, and I think it is like 3:30, maybe 4 in the morning, and a YouTube video hit my homepage from a guy called Ron the Grand, old guy with glasses, talking about real estate wholesaling and how to turn, I think it was like $40 into 10 grand with real estate. And looking back, I know that sounds BS, and that is what got me. I clicked on the video. Basically what wholesaling is where you just find an underpriced, distressed property. You get the property under contract, you are basically purchasing it on paper, and then you find or assign that contract to a potential buyer that you find within your network. So say 100 grand, let us say that the seller wants 100 grand for this property. It is just undervalued. You find a buyer for 110 and you assign that contract. You are more or less the middleman. The seller gets their 100 grand, buyer gets the property, and you collect what is in the middle. That is a 10 grand profit to you. Now, obviously that sounds a lot easier than it is. And I mean, it was, but at the same time, I was like, okay, this sounds simple enough. And from his advice, literally the next morning, I got on Craigslist Kijiji from his recommendation and just trying to match deal flow, right? Just trying to outreach to people. And it kind of started working. There were a lot of reasons why it didn't work, but I had gotten so damn close to a deal, 2 actually. One was a multiplex, and the issue was the seller only spoke French for one, so he barely understood. He did not have a translator, he was an older gentleman. And the other unfortunate part was he just didn't like dealing with wholesalers. So I was like, well, at the bottom, no matter how good the offer was, but it was his asking price, and I would have made 25 grand at the age of 17, which was absurd. I still have the contract for context. I have proof of all of this. So there are haters thinking that this is BS. I have proof of every single one of these things with timestamps, with emails, everything. So I will eventually add that either to this video or in a separate one, but that was crazy to me. I was on the tip of the iceberg of this thing, and I think the big issue as to why I failed was I was always one step behind the 8 ball, right? There were all these deals on Kijiji and other platforms that were just scraps, right? right? These investors, you have no idea. These people were like a hound of hyenas. They would pounce on something the minute it came through, and obviously I was doing that. I was trying to be as quick as I could. This is the new school year at this point, so I'm half busy with school, but I remember going to this class that we had specifically designed to do homework. I would never do homework in this class. I was on the computer sending outreach messages trying to connect buyers and sellers every day for like 4 or 5 months. It was insane. And that was ultimately, I think, just why it failed. I was too late to networking. I had just started, but I was like, dude, it is just too late. And now looking back what real estate wholesaling is today, this is 2015. It is like blown the hell out right now, which is insane. So it is just funny to look back at. Business number 3 was a mix of two things. It was private equity deal sourcing, but the first one I tried was actually partnering with investors, people who had capital and wanted to basically buy a business, wanting to own a stake in a business as a minority or as a 50 to 50 Pascal's partner and have someone else do the work, which was me. So first part of that I had was actually a ton of interest, funnily enough. People who had 20 grand, 50 grand, a couple $100,000 from, say, a real estate sale that they just wanted to put to work and find a partner that they could get these people on deals with. And I had met this guy physically. It was an older Indian guy, I believe, maybe in his 40s. Young guy still, but he had a very good job. He had liquid cash. I drove about an hour away in my dad's car. I had lied to my dad and said, hey, some buddies just want to go meet at a coffee shop. Is it fine if I take the car? He looks at me. He just stares for like 10 seconds. He is like, are you actually going to go? Like, this is a coffee shop, right? I said, yes, I promise. And he is like, okay, go be back by this time. If you are not back by this time, we're going to have a huge problem. And I was still back by that time, but he didn't have a tracker on the car. This is before all that. So I was like, okay, thank God I did it. I met with this guy at a coffee shop about an hour away from my house. He was like shocked. He is like, man, you look a lot younger than you sound. I am just going to be frank. And I had started to build my communication at this point, right? I had started making some cold calls from the real estate wholesale space, so I felt confident enough. He is like, you don't have a job, right? I am like, no. He is like, you are not in school then, right? I am like, no. He is like, where does the confidence come from? Like, where does this happen, right? I am not making sense of it. And it was just very, very funny. And we get to it. He shows me his bank account, and then he is like, I guess I am pretty set on doing a deal. But I don't know if you can find some better ones, because I tried to match websites. I tried to find other offline businesses for sale, and it just fluked. It never went anywhere. What I think what happened is he was so sold in the moment, but obviously this is like a multi-step thing, and I didn't lock it up enough. I didn't obviously get to sign a contract or anything like that. But I think the reason that part failed was nobody's going to trust a 17-year-old kid. Man, I had no reps. I had no experience running a business. And thank God nobody trusted me with running a business day. Because even if you are buying something established, there is so much more that goes into it. So then I pivoted to the private equity deal sourcing part, which was like, okay, I'll find companies for sale and I'll just match full-time buyers for them. ILL match full 100% capital owner purchasers with them. And I had cold called every single private equity firm in North America to do this and find sites on Bisbee Sell, Flippa, Empire, Flippers, something like that, all these deal flow sites, and that was the other issue. What was the commonality? I just wasn't sourcing proprietary deals. And then I went as far as like, what if I cold call companies or cold email businesses and say, hey, would you ever be interested in selling? I think, side note, that is a huge, huge business opportunity still. Alex Hormozi talks about it. If he was to run any type of cold email offer, it would be to try and match serious buyers with serious sellers of companies, because there is so much margin to make there, guys. This was the reason I was so interested in this, is because there is a thing called a Lehman formula where you make almost 5% on the first million, 4% on the second, so on and so forth. It was stupid amounts of fees being paid as an intermediary, what I was trying to do. But again, I just didn't know what I didn't know. And I can go into so many stories about this. I arguably learned the most from this opportunity than I did anything else, because I am calling very high level people. I am talking to VPS at firms that have hundreds of millions of dollars in capital, right? So it was crazy. It was an interesting experience. This was right before I got my job at the kind of call center at a real estate lending company. So keep in mind these next two opportunities I tried starting while I was working. Business number 4 basically was a broad SMMA. So there was a company that did live chat support, did lead gen, did social media marketing, and they had this stupidly insane comp plan where it was like, hey, you're commission only, and we take contractors, obviously, but you need to be responsible for sourcing everything. You are going to get, say, if you bring on a $2,000 a month customer, you will get the first and last month. So if you bring on a $2,000 a month customer, your commission is $4,000 up front. It was that moment where it clicked for me. I am like, this is that Wolf of Wall Street saying where it is. Like, you are going to pay me how much on a deal? And it was stupid. And I remember being known as the Reddit guy because I messaged business owners on Reddit in order to get ahead. And I had found this guy who onboarded with the services at $850 a month. And I got that first check for $1,700 right before they changed the comp plan, because they knew it was crazy. And it was just like, oh my God, this is insane. This is a crazy opportunity. And lo and behold, the thing fails. I just was not good at cold emailing. I didn't have the skills yet. We were kind of just fending for ourselves completely, and it was pretty rough. So that ended up failing. I could talk more about that. Business number 5, this is the final one I tried a couple years ago. This was our closest to actual real success. We actually had real customers on board, whereas my last one was kind of just like an individual contributor sales role. This was like my first real business. So I was scavenging. This was April of 2021. So like peak of the market, peak of people being back from COVID, if you will. Attention spans were all on video games, right? And I had been looking for a business to start. I was at a point in my full-time job where I could get 8 hours of work done in 5. I am just calling a spade a spade. I was not working a full 8-hour day. I knew I was hyper efficient, but I also knew the kind of state of that startup. Keep in mind, if you have watched my other videos, that same company shut down end of 2021. I knew the direction where we were going, and I knew I had to start a business at that point. It just wasn't dawning on me yet that it is like, dude, you don't need to complicate things. Just go start what you are already doing. So I didn't do that yet. That was my first kind of real success I talk about at the end of the video. But this I wanted to do something in the tech space or the startup world, if you will, because it looked flashy, it looked sexy on the outside, right? So I was on the Reddit startups thread, and this guy from the Netherlands, him and I connect specifically on a business. It was a software product. Closest competitor was in Streamly. They should still be up. They are based in Poland, and it is literally just a mini kind of banner ad that is live, that is playable, that is movable within a stream. So micro streamers could get paid, and it wasn't as a disruptive experience to the viewer, right? So it wasn't like a full 30-second or 1-minute ad break. It was just an ad within the stream that you are already watching on the bottom of the screen. At the top of the screen, you could put it anywhere. It was a simple line of code, and I looked at him. I am like, dude, this is awesome. This is way better viewer experience. Advertisers are going to make more money. Streamers, micro streamers, to be specific, are going to make more money. You don't have to wait for Twitch partner program, right? So it is like, let S do this, man. Let S build this thing. We built a very mock kind of prototype, and I learned from my other mistakes where it is like, we just need to sell. I will be head of sales. I will just do as much outreach as physically possible. The issue, though, was number one, it was a marketplace. It was a glorified marketplace. And for those who don't know, I am not against them. They could do extremely well. But as one of your first hits, one of your first businesses, they are so stupidly difficult, right? You are connecting someone. It is a chicken and egg issue. You go to buyers and say, hey, would you buy this? Awesome, great. And then you have to go to the sellers and actually get that demand to be able to fulfill it and match the needs. It is this constant teeter-totter. So I started off with Reddit. Again, I reached out to every single streamer. I mean, like thousands of streamers hand by hand to say, hey, would this be something you are interested in? Take a look. We got an absolutely insane response rate to be like, yes, absolutely. Now, some were unqualified. That was another problem where it is like some had 5 viewers, and it is like nothing against that, but 5 viewers is just not going to be enough to make this thing work. We needed a minimum of like 20, 25 consecutive viewers, right? That is what we considered micro.